What's up, y'all? This video today is going to be about how we survived in prison and how we hustled, what we hustled, and how we fed all of our comrades and everybody who was in our little circle. Like I said in my previous video, stealing was not allowed. We did not rob anyone. We did not steal from anybody. Like I said in my last video about how polar bears were made. PBF, how the PBF family was made. When we drew up the paperwork and wrote everything, if you could not survive and hustle on your own, then you was not considered a man. If you got to rob from someone to support yourself, you're not a man. You got to make your own. You have to earn your own keep. So how we hustled in there was tobacco and weed. Okay, it's a little harder to get packs of cigarettes in there. So we smoked roll rights. Roll rights is just a hand-rolled cigarettes. You know, in the Maryland prison system, we just call them roll rights. Let me get a roll right, yo. You know, or let me get a white boy. You know, a white boy is a roll right. Yo, let me get a white boy, yo. And how we hustled, we took little sandwich baggies and we would fill them up 1 to 2 fingers thick. That's what we called a cash bag. 1 finger was $10, 2 fingers was obviously $20. And you could have a person send your family $20, and then the next time you talk to them on the phone, you can confirm, hey, I got that money from you know, homie home or whatever, and you can hand the person the tobacco once you confirm their people uptown sent your people the money, or you can pay for tobacco with commissary, which was our preferred method. We did hustle for cash sometimes, or have a family member send my family members, or my wife rather, at the time, you know, she was my girlfriend. We did accept the cash sometimes, but it was the preferred method for commissary. In our organization, PBF, the Polar Bear family, we had different levels of who's in charge and what they're in charge of. We had an officer of finance, I guess you could say head of finance, sergeant of arms, he was in charge of all the knives. Then you had the person who was in charge and his second or lieutenant, you know, but I ain't going into all that in this video. This video is how we survived. So in Brockbridge Correctional Facility, they have what they call road crew. It's a crew of guys that go out on the highway, 5 to 8 of us, go out on the highway in a white van. We would meet up with the State Highway Administration guy. He would be our lead. Then the van would follow him. We would go to a highway and we would pick up the trash. Whatever. I'm only telling this story and this is the side note. I'm only telling this story because Brockbridge is no longer open. So I can't give up the holes of the jail if the jail's not in operation. I would feel really fucked up if I told this story and Brockbridge was open and I just knocked off a dude's hustle. You know, but I'm only telling this story because Brockbridge isn't open anymore. They shut that bitch down. It was too wild. It was wide open. If you wanted to crack a motherfucker's head open, it wasn't hard to get to him. After a while, they just got tired of it, and the Division of Corrections and the governor shut it down. So anyway, I was assigned to road crew, and after you're at your assignment, whether it's kitchen detail, laundry detail, road crew, whatever, after you're at your specific assignment for a while, you get to develop a system, and you get to peep out blind spots. The best way to do this, the best way to hustle that, the best way to sneak in this, best way to sneak in that. You get to peep out the whole operation of the thing. So after I was on road crew for a couple weeks, I realized, like, dude, I can take advantage of this. I called my girl. I'm like, babe, I want to do this, this, that, and this. She's like, you think it'll work? And I'm like, absolutely. So she would meet me. And where she would meet me at is in the middle of the day. We would take lunch, but we wouldn't take lunch on the side of the highway. We would go back to the highway administration lot off of Route 1 at Jessup. It's almost on the corner of Route 1 and 175 at the State Highway Administration lot. It's right behind Howard County Detention Center, and my girl used to meet me there twice a week at a specific time, and she would bring me 2 cans of tobacco twice a week. I would get my weed from somewhere else, from someone else, over the fence in the yard. They would just come up in the woods and throw it over the fence. Only if certain officers was in the yard, we would pay him, and he would stay in the shack where all the weights, handles, and all the basketballs and all that stuff was, where you had to give your prison ID to get like a ball or whatever. That's in another video. So if you want to watch that, you go to my other video and watch that video. So my girl would come and meet me twice a week, and she would already have the cans. She would bring me some baggies. She'd bring me like duct tape, and she would also bring me 2 rolls of blue painter's tape. Not the thin kind, we needed the wide kind. And the reason we needed that is after here, let me back up a little bit. We would put all the tobacco out of the cans in baggies, because this was at lunch. We would put it in baggies, put it under our feet and our shoe, and walk on it all day. That would help flatten it out. Some of the baggies, or I say most of the baggies, we would tape under the lunch cooler that the prison staff would send out with us. So at lunchtime, you know, we could eat our little bullshit mystery meat bag lunches. They would put all the bag lunches in the cooler with a little carton of juice or a little carton of milk or whatever. But anyway, the cooler was blue, the same, almost the same exact color as blue painter's tape. We would take the cooler at the end of the lunch, empty it out, empty all the ice out and shit, and tape the baggies to the bottom of the cooler at the end of the day. Because not only do we go to the State Highway Administration lot at lunch, we also have to go back there at the end of the day. And the CO both times would go in the shack with the State Highway Administration guy who drives the big truck ahead of us. So while he's in there at lunch, I'm meeting my girl, getting some lovin's, getting my tobacco, organizing it, putting it under our feet. And then at the end of the day, after we walked on it, we would tape it to the bottom of the cooler real nice and neat. I mean, it's shit like you couldn't, if you didn't know it was there, then you fucking had no idea, because it did not stand out at all. And how we got it in the jail, one person would stand on one side of the cooler and hold the handle. The other person would stand on the other side, and I had a real close person who was in the kitchen detail. So when we got back to the jail at the end of the day, I just let him know it, and we had a little signal and a phrase that I would say to him, and he would know to look out for the bottom of the cooler. So we get back, I let him know, blase, boat, it's there, good looking, I'll holler at you later. And for him grabbing all my shit and bringing it up later, I would hit him off with like a $30 cash bag for free. Like, here you go, boom, I got you next time as well. And we would do that every week. And after a while, we started to, like, you know, everybody was eating real good, making a lot of hookups. But also, when you hustle in prison, you generate a lot of unwanted attention. So don't hustle in there if you can't handle your own. Understand, you know, because you generate a lot of fucking unwanted attention. So that's why all the heads, me, Uncle Mike from BGF, Russell from DMI, Savage and Snoopy, who's in the Bloods, that's why we had a meeting and didn't allow no knucklehead shit in the jail. We don't need this unwanted attention from the police. By the way, in prison, we call the COs the police. So we didn't want a whole bunch of attention by the police in the joint. Fuck that. And then they're going to find shit we don't want them to find. Our knives, our weed, our tobacco, and our livelihood. It's fucking done. So we didn't allow it. So I told Uncle Mike, the dude from BGF, hey, if you break me off, you know, your girl can meet my girl, and if you want to get in weed or whatever else, let me know, I got you. You know, so, and we made moves. Like when BGF made moves, they let me know, and then we was able to hop in. When we made moves, you know, we would let DMI, the Bloods, BGF. We always made moves together, but you can't borrow off of another organization. We made that rule because it would do nothing but cause issues. So we just didn't allow it, and we didn't do it. We sold each roll right, little hand rolled cigarette for $1 in commissary, which is like a tuna fish and a noodle, or a sardine and a noodle. That would get you a roll right. You know, and we lived really well. You know, that provided the polar bears with a very good living. And the weed also, a joint of weed in prison. When I was there, and it wasn't some big old fat one the size of your pinky, no, it was a pinstripe joint of weed, goes for $10. So, and I was at Brockbridge for a year and a half. Loved it. Some people say high school was the best years of their lives. I had an awesome time in high school. I really did. I played football and I wrestled. But and it sounds ironic and it don't make sense, but I had a blast when I was at Brockbridge. The only thing sucked is I couldn't go home. Other than that, I had a ball. But that's how we survived. If certain officers, on the other hand, with the weed, if certain officers was working certain shifts and we knew it ahead of time, we would make a phone call, say, hey, my man's working at the gas station. Then that person knew what I meant. And I'd say, hey, I need you to go get X and take it over to Y. Because you know, all them phone calls, you gotta be real careful and plan your shit ahead of time in the visiting room so the other person who you're talking to knows what you're talking about. They would park in a certain, they would go get X, bring it up to the jail, park in a certain spot, and there was a little patch of woods that was between the parking lot and our yard where the weight pit was. And they would take like balls of like weed or cell phones and wrap them up real good with duct tape or what have you and throw it over the fence. It was two fences, a fence, a bunch of razor wire, and another one, but they wasn't real high. So they would come up to the yard, throw it over, we would hurry up, grab it, hit our man off, and hit the CO off with a $50 bill or a $100 bill, and that's that. That's how we made a living. That's, you know, we hustle, but you got to keep things real low key. Don't brag about shit. Don't talk. Loose lips sinks ships. You talk about your shit, you're gonna hurt yourself. Don't say nothing to nobody. But anyway, so that's how the polar bears hustled and survived in prison. As always, be cool, be kind, be safe.